What's happening, Andy? Here I am joined today by Austin Vanchieri. How are you today, Austin?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for asking.
It is great to see you, Austin. You have a pretty simple job, I guess, right? You are chairman and CEO of the board for Visual Edge IT, formerly Visual Edge Technology, right?
Correct. That's my job. That's my day job.
Day job. Well, that sounds like top five dealer, I'd say. It sounds like kind of a busy day. I'd like to spend some time with you today. Thanks for coming on the show. Maybe check in and see what's going on with Visual Edge. I just saw David Ramos over at the Executive Connection Summit. It was nice to see him
Right.
out and about. So yeah, it just made me think maybe we need to get you on here and check in and see, what's happened. And I'd love to, maybe hear about your background a little bit and then jump into who is Visual Edge and where are you out of, and, give us some of the background before we talk about where you guys came from and how you got to where you are today.
Sure, sure. My background is in science. I'm a physics major, got a degree in physics. Then I got an MBA in night school when I was working at Xerox. I went to Xerox. Let's see, how does that work? I graduated on Friday and I started working for them on Monday in one of their factories as a young xerographer of all things. So I did start in the business, although I never sold a copier in my life. Uh, I went up through the manufacturing ranks. Then they pulled me over to corporate to take a look at me. You know, the way big companies do, they take your measure. Then you're lucky enough, you find a sponsor. And I did all of that for about 15 years. And I was running their manufacturing in the US, basically making all their machines and working with the union and supervising guys through a management chain. We made everything from the screw. Xerox makes almost nothing now. Then we made everything from the screw machines we made everything back in the day.
Yes,
And
you
then I
did.
moved to California. There was an opening there that they sent me to. There was an interview, but basically I was moved to California to work with one of their subsidiaries, and I became kind of a troubleshooter. So I became the president of that subsidiary, and then they kept giving me operations that were kind of troubled. Could be desktop publishing, it could be OEMing the Fuji Xerox desktop printers into the US, a whole bunch of different things. It was the first word processors that they call memory writers then. All of those things they gave me, and I built it into about $1.2 billion division. And then I got bored. I was actually the West Coast rep for the Xerox Venture Group. So they would send me prospective guys to invest in, all of whom had sponsors. I mean, guys like Bob Noyce were in my office with fellas that had these reptical systems way ahead of its time. So I saw that there was this venture community and it interested me. So after a bit, I decided to leave and go small. So I ran into, skipping around a bit, I ran into a guy named Dick Kramlich, who was, one of the top venture capital guys, very famous guy. He's still on my board. Matter of fact, he was the last equity investor in the company a few years back. And then we built Visual Edge, but in a different way. This term mega dealer, I don't consider ourselves a mega dealer anymore. So what we did was, from the beginning, plan to do what I'm doing now. It just took me longer. We just kept getting interrupted. We got interrupted in the 8, 9, 10, 11 recession. We got interrupted with COVID, but we kept plugging along. So when we bought all the companies, the idea was to get enough size, 300 million or so that we could, in fact, have the customer base that was needed to get the interest we needed to fund what we needed to do beyond the acquisitions. So we bought, I think, 34 companies. But what most people don't realize is we bought 3 IT companies right off the bat for the talent. Because in the print companies, we have one print company we bought that had very good VoIP talent down in Texas. And there's still our VoIP concentration of talent. And we bought another company in Michigan that had very good security talent. And then we bought two other IT companies, one of which is now our NOC command center in Indianapolis. And the other one that we bought is now honchoing the East Coast IT efforts. So we always had this idea of doing what we're doing now to become a national total technology company with one brand. I'll talk about the brand in a minute because most people don't know why I did that. You know, it wasn't just hanging IT on the end of the name, which some people think it was. It was a little bit more than that. So we became a company that was definitely going to be a managed services company, a managed security and services company, a total technology company, whatever the hell you want to call us. That's what we became, Visual Edge IT. The idea of going after our existing accounts worked. I mean, we now have sold something in the relation to IT to about 5,000 accounts. That's a big number. 2,200 of them are true managed services accounts with recurring revenue. And going forward, we moved up market and started selling to non-customers. In other words, new logos. And we've been doing that for a while. So basically, we did transform ourselves into, I'll call it a mini piece of CDW. You know, CDW did this from a VAR standpoint, right? And now they're in the enterprise space with what is probably now a $100 million MSP company. We're not in the enterprise space. That wasn't the intention. And, you know, lots of folks, lots of pundits talk about not penetrating your customer base. I never intended to have two companies, never intended to have two divisions. I was going to butt my head against that wall called, how do you convince a print company to become an IT company? And I'm still butting my head against that wall, but we're winning. I'm bruised a little, but we're winning. So that is how we became Visual Edge IT. And I changed the name, not because Visual Edge technology doesn't work in the space. The emphasis on the change of name was internal. I wanted a brand for all of the other companies who had their brands up to 2 years ago to join. So now on all our buildings, 75 locations, 6 area GMs, 2 regions, Visual Edge IT is on the building. I left it up to them if they wanted to retain the local brand. Most of them didn't want to after a while. You know, after they bought in, they didn't want to. So we are supplying anything connected to the network to our customers. And we've become a knowledge-based company. What we sell is know-how. That's what the office needs now. The printer is just another device hanging on the network, I tell my people. Now, it pays all the bills, don't misunderstand me. I love the business, but as it did in print, it takes time to build up the service business. You know, a dealer might take 15, 20 years to build up his service revenue, so it's half his revenue. In the IT space, you don't have the printer revenue. You don't have the printer margin. So you need to fund it somehow. I believe this is why regional MSPs have more of a tough time. They don't have the initial income coming in from the sale of a printer. We do. Someone like CDW or others had the VAR profit coming in to fund the MSP business. So we're pretty unique. You know, we have access to every IT product, soft and hard imaginable. And we have access to all the printers. We've got our service revenue coming in. And so we could afford to become this national technology services company. Now I'll take a breath.
Well, and you led us right up to where I'd like to be right now, which is talking about your coverage, where you are today, and who you are in the market. You know, I spent some time doing, you know, a little bit of background before our show today, and so you guys are probably the only one I can think of who is truly coast to coast at this point, where you're literally all the way in California, in Southern California, all the way up to Maine, the tip top of the U.S. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some others that are crossing the country in that coast to coast as well, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. So your coverage is there. It seems unique, right? No one else that I can think of is able to do that. And so you offer consistency across the board as well, if I'm understanding this right. So you had all these different locations. You bought 34 locations that you bought over the years. They had a variety of different products and services, and now, are they all selling IT? Are they all selling VoIP? Have they all bought into all the full portfolio, or is this something that's being rolled out? What's the look across the board for all these, what used to be independent companies, but now they're all Visual Edge companies?
Yeah, so there's one product stack, one pricing scheme. Everybody uses the same product stack. I remember your interview with Doug at Marco, where he was talking about putting companies together, right? He was talking about getting everybody on the same page and bringing their IT side and their print side together, and the difficulties you run into just in the administrative architecture of running the business. Well, imagine doing that for 34 companies that had 34 databases, which now we have down to 3, and the end of June will be 1, and the effect that has on people and trying to get it all together. And to be frank with you, we finished 19 at like 309 million, doing very well. That's where I wanted to be. If we hadn't had the slowdown in 20 and 21, I'm not too sure we would have done this well, because that slowdown allowed me to play housekeeping with print, keeping things alive, and to really focus on the IT talent, because that's when we brought in about 8 medium to senior level executives who were pure IT people. They also then, besides the IT companies that we bought, they infuse know-how into the company. So whether it's Sacramento to San Diego to Miami to Bangor, Maine, the only place I'm not at that I wanted to be, I never found anyone, was Chicago and New York City. And I'm not too sure I regret that. That may have been a good thing when you consider what happened to print, because most of our customers, being businesses that stayed open, we did see a decrease, but we're almost back to normal now by way of revenue, but for a different reason. I mean, we picked up whatever we lost in print, we picked up in IT. And so everybody's selling everything. We have 40 engineers supporting our customers. We have 50 BTA tech guys married locally to my print salespeople, BTA print people. They work as a team. And then I have 50 local engineers who are supporting them in the pre-sales area. And then we have a customer success group, all the classic organizations that you would expect for a managed services or managed security and services organization. So we can do it all. We have the experts. Everybody knows where the experts are. So if there is Visual Edge Connect is an intermediate product, right? And in 13 months, we now have 178 installations. It was like a rocket ship.
Wow.
It's VoIP, but more than that. It's collaboration, but it's easier for a print guy to understand. You can see from a phone on a desk if somebody needs help, basically, if you get trained to do it.
Yep.
So that plus help from the specialists. I mean, think about print. They needed solution specialists because the print guy didn't know it. Sooner or later, he did know it. He learned it. But even now, if it's a production deal, they bring in a specialist. So now, every time we're in front of a customer, we talk IT. And we have handouts for them. And so more than half my customers in IT are my print customers. But it's a variety of sizes. The account levels are different in size.
So going forward, we're evolving. You're evolving this from you're using the copier heritage of the companies that you've acquired over the years, most of them, and you're using that to kind of fund your future, which is this holistic office offering of everything, right? B2B level, not so much at the enterprise, but really, the small and medium-sized businesses that maybe aren't being supported by a CDW or someone of that nature. Somebody who needs consulting, who needs somebody to come in there and help me figure out what do I need, for phones, what do I need, what's the latest thing for managed services, what's the latest thing for office equipment, for regular office technology. That does change, and it becomes used more, it's been used differently over the last few years, especially with all the remote work going on. So moving forward, looking into your crystal ball in the next couple of years, where do you see, obviously, the evolution more towards managed services? Are there going to be more acquisitions? Are you going to expand into other areas? You're not in all 50 states. No one is. Do you see yourself ever getting to that point, or is that part of the goal?
Yeah, I think we need to continue to digest and learn how to service larger accounts in addition to my own accounts. As an example, the range of accounts, we have accounts that are $140,000 a month with a couple of thousand endpoints that we support. It's my largest account. I have accounts that are $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And you might say, some pundits say you have to have $20,000 each. It's got to be $10,000. You have to have an assessment fee of $15,000 or it doesn't work. What I'm telling you is, if it's my account and they've been with me for 10 years and they got 20 employees and the service revenue from print is $120 a month, if I can sign them up for $1,500 a month and I'm already there, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But that's what coming together means at the sales force and the service force. So I think moving up market, getting our act together over the next 12 months, having more of our business be IT, I can attract more investment. I've been funded by Ares Capital Management now for 5 years. I'm in my 6th year. They own a big piece of the company. Management owns a big piece of the company. So it's not as though I was an owner and I sold the whole thing 10 years ago and I'm still there, right? It's a little different. So Ares has been funding us. Ares has a big piece of the equity piece of the company. They're a $350 billion. They're not a bank. I mean, they're a huge private equity firm. So we need to bring in more money, but not this year. I still need to learn how to do this better, how to grow the IT into a more significant piece of the business. Because until IT is, let's say, 30% of the business, to the outside world, I'm still a print company. You know what I mean by that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we have more to prove. We've got the team to do it. And as I tell my people all the time, I'm all in all the time. I mean, that's what this business is all about.
Exactly. Well, awesome. This has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. You shared an awful lot. I'm glad we got an opportunity to sit down and do this. We need to do this again, maybe check in 6 months and see where things are at. Are you going to be out and about? Is Ramos going to be out? We're going to see some Visual Edge people at any of the shows coming up, some of the associations or BTAs having some stuff. You guys going to be out there, or where
Ramos or Brigner will be at the BTAs or the CDA meetings. They changed their name. I don't remember what it is now. But we sponsor these things. I think the Jillian ride goes right through my operation in Tennessee.
I can't believe you. I almost didn't even bring that up, and that's my crew. Those are my people. I unfortunately had to miss that day. I had to go fly south and be with a customer for that part of the visit. But I got all the pictures. They're up on our website from when they rolled in. You guys did some amazing things that day, made some really great donations, not just to us, but to some other local charities as well.
We do. We participate in the Canada event.
Yeah.
I think we bought a table this year, although we couldn't use most of it because we got snowed in. And, the Mariana Rivera thing with Atlantic, we do that with them. So we try to get out and about and contribute.
Awesome. Well, you guys are always just one of the highlights of this industry. You're a great, just a great example of where a company can go with a little bit of vision. So With that, I'm going to thank you for your time today. And any last shout outs to anyone before we let you go?
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Great seeing you. Awesome. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Appreciate it.